Hey, let's bring in right now CNN anchor Don Lemon. Don is the author of the new book titled This is the Fire: What I Say to My Friends About Racism. It is right now the #1 bestseller on the New York Times list, Don. And we need to explain to our viewers, they're like, wait a second, wait, Don Lemon, CNN? We have this sort of like a home and home series. You were kind enough to let me come on your show, talk about Harry Truman, and I greatly appreciated that so much. And so it is great to have you here with us, talking to our friends. And let's start by just saying congratulations on this book and its success, man. It's got to be great for you to be able to get that message out there that means so much to you personally.
It really is. I'm sure people all over America watching or looking at their channel guide going, wait a minute, what channel am I watching right now? But you're right, Joe. Thank you. And you know, when you say New York Times #1 bestseller, debuting, that's a lot. I had no idea what it meant, but you as a prolific author knows that means that people are willing to receive, ready to receive the message or whatever it is that you're putting out there. And I think this is the right moment and right time for this book. Because it can help us have these very profound and sometimes uncomfortable conversations that you have on your program all the time when I tune in, watching you and Eddie Glaude and Willie have these conversations, and of course Mika as well. And when you look at what you were just discussing a short while ago about what's happening in Minneapolis, what happened in the summer of 2020, I think the book is very timely, and I think it's necessary in the moment. So, yeah.
And you did a deep dive into your family's heritage, and I'd love for you to tell our friends about that. Talk about what you found, and really how deep you dug to find out about your family and its past.
People are often, and they should be, very proud of who they are and where they come from, or where they came from. If they came over on the Mayflower, if they came over on a slave ship, one should be proud of it. And I think it's tough for many African Americans to figure that out, because the records, Joe, as you know, only go back so far, sometimes 1 or 2, maybe 2 generations, sometimes 3 generations, if that. And that's not usually an issue for white Americans, because white Americans weren't just as property. And so African Americans were just deemed as property, and there often aren't the records. So I went back to Africa, to the slave coast in Africa, to trace the journey of my ancestors with my mother a few years ago. And then recently I went with Dr. Skip Gates as well. Well, I didn't go with him, but he did a tracing of my ancestry as well. And it gave me this pride that I didn't really have before. I've always been proud to be a man of color in America. But knowing that my ancestry goes back beyond just slavery in America, which is something to be very proud of, having helped build this country for free, but knowing that there was something beyond this continent and that I had a history beyond America was something that was very pride-filling for me. And I think all Americans, especially African Americans, should go back and get their ancestry done. It's interesting because you can trace a lot of it, which they weren't able to do before, through actually white plantation owners and white relatives. And that happened with my family as well, because I have a history of black and white in my family. And even some of the plantation owners, Joe, being the father of my ancestors, owning my ancestors, but then also selling them property as well, land meaning. And so it was very interesting and very heartfelt.
Hey, Don, it's Willie. Great to see you this morning. Welcome to this side of the street, just for a few minutes anyway. Congratulations on the big success of the book. I'm curious, these incredible journeys you took, whether it was to the plantation or to the slave coast of Ghana, whether it reframed the way you look at what we're going through as a country right now in terms of race, specifically what we've been going through, this reckoning of the last year. How did that instruct the way you're looking at the country right now?
Well, I think if we go back to the beginning, then that will set us on the right course, because we must look at history in the way history is taught in this country. History is taught in a way that is whitewashed here. Children don't learn about the contributions of especially people from Africa in their history books. And so in the book, I give some of that history, because I think it's important for people to know. If you know the true history of this country, If you know that even before the Mayflower, that there were people from the African continent on this country helping to build the country, then possibly you won't get people acting on a big lie, and you won't get an insurrection on Capitol Hill, because people will be operating from truth and fact. And they'll understand that this country was really built in the image of not just white people, but all people in this country, and that all people should be included in this country with every right and every privilege. So I think that was the part for me that sort of informed what I should be writing about and what I should be teaching, so that we're not acting on a lie, that we don't. It's hard to get someone to put a knee on someone's neck when you know the true history of this country, and when you realize that all of your countrymen, black and white, are part of the same process, that we're looking for a more perfect union, and we just want the rights and privileges that everyone else wants in this country.
Michael Steele, I know you have a question for Don, but what Don said, though, was just so important to where we are in 2021. Last year, we, of course, had the horrors, the tragedy of George Floyd, but also a raging debate about the 1619 Project. And a lot of people saying, well, I didn't like what this said, don't like other people having, maybe a tweet was wrong here. And I've grown up being a 1776 guy, because that's what I've learned. But what this country, I hope, is learning is to use a little dialectical thinking, where 1619 and 1776 can coexist together, because they do coexist together.
Yeah.
And that's that's exactly what Don's saying, in a positive way, that yes, the genius of our founders in 1776 has fed and freed more people on the planet than anything else. But you can't just start there. You need to go back to 1619 to understand what Don's talking about right now, and that is that 1619 is a reality we have not grappled with enough as a country, but we can grapple with that and still celebrate 1776. They can exist together.
Well, I think that's exactly right. You don't get to celebrate 1776 without experiencing 1619. That's one. Number two, what the 1619 Project made very clear is you no longer get to write my history. You know, white America no longer gets to tell just one side of the story, and that there were black lives that played a role and were impacted, which gets to Don in your book. And man, I'm so excited for you. I remember having a brief conversation with you while you were writing this, and sort of hearing your passion at that time, and excited to see it come to fruition. You do bring the fire, as we all know. But tell me what you say to your friends about racism. What is it that they need to know? And it's not, and an interesting thing I think is important, it's not just white folks that need to understand this, but also some black folks too, that, racism, oddly enough, doesn't have color. It really is about a lot of things, and it's not just about the color. So how do you have that conversation with your black and white friends about racism?
Well, racism is also about agency. It's also about having cachet in society. It's also about who holds privilege in society. So yeah, I have conversations with my black friends and my white friends, but those are often two different conversations. I think if black people read the book, and I hope you read it, Michael Steele, you'll look at it, you'll read it, and you'll say, oh yeah, I get it, yeah, I understand. And then there's oftentimes among my white friends is sort of pearl clutching, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. So there are two different conversations, but I think in the moment that we're in right now, is a moment that we need to focus on white supremacy. Yes, we all need to learn lessons about racism and what it means and our roles in it. But at this particular point in society, I think Joe brings up a very good point concerning what happened at the Capitol, what happened in the summer of 2020. We need to focus on white supremacy right now. And we need to start with the truth. So my conversations always start with the truth about what we're saying right now, where the country started, the true history of the country. If you want to say, as we were talking about 1776 versus 1619, we often learn in history in elementary school that, Columbus sailed the ocean blue and then he discovered America. Columbus did not discover America. You say that to Native Americans and they will be very offended. Now, if you want to say that the English and Columbus conquered America, then that's absolutely true. But they didn't discover America. America was here and thriving before Columbus actually came over. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. That's not wiping away someone's history. That is basically telling the truth about the founding of this country. And the history books whitewash the history of this country, elevates one group of people, and then lowers and denigrates another group of people. Why? Because there are people who feel like the country was built in their image. And as I said before, this country was built in the image of many different people, many different contributors to the starting and the founding of this country. And we all need to be celebrated and included in that history. And if we start from the very beginning, then we can start having the true conversations about race, and especially in this era, white supremacy.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news, or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.